Good morning, students. This video is for the students of class 9, subject science, chapter number 15, that is improvement in food resources. It's your lecture number 2. Topics to be discussed in today's lecture is crop production management. Under this crop production management, we would be discussing about nutrient management, irrigation, and various cropping patterns. So let's start with crop production management. That is the second activity. The first activity was crop variety improvement, which I discussed in lecture number 1. So let's start with crop production management. You know that different farmers have more or less land, money, and access to information and technologies. Okay, it varies from farmer to farmer. Okay, so this crop production practiced by farmers, it can be grouped at different levels. That is no cost, low cost, and high cost crop production practices. Okay, depending upon the land holding capacity of the farmer, financial condition of the farmer, and access to the farmer to information and technologies. Means that the farmer's purchasing capacity for inputs, it decides the cropping system and production practices. So, let us study about crop production management. Means what are those practices which are involved under this management of the crops? Basically, there are three management or practices involved under crop production management. What are those? First is nutrient management. Second is irrigation. And third is cropping patterns. These three techniques or the practices we will be discussing in detail one by one. So first is nutrient management. What are nutrients? Nutrients are the inorganic elements which are supplied to the plants by air, water, and soil. You know that the plants, they require nutrients for the growth. Okay, so these nutrients, that is inorganic elements, they are supplied to the plants either by air, water, or soil. Okay, now there are total 16 nutrients. How many? 16 nutrients which are required by the plants, and they are essential also. Okay, there are 16 nutrients which are essential for plants, and they are categorized as micronutrients and macronutrients. Or in other words, you can say the types of nutrients, that is micronutrients and macronutrients. Now, what are macronutrients? Macro means large. Macronutrients are those nutrients which are required in large quantities. Okay, they are required in large amount. They are called as macronutrients. And what are the examples of macronutrients? Examples are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium and sulfur. Means there are total 6 nutrients, 6 macronutrients which are required to the plants. And what are micronutrients? Micro means small. Micronutrients are those nutrients which are required in small quantities. Okay, they are required in small amounts. And what are the examples of micronutrients? The examples are iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, molybdenum and sulfur. There are total 7 micronutrients which are required by the plants. So what is the total number of macronutrients and micronutrients? I told you right now. Total macronutrients are 6 in number and total micronutrients are 7 in number. You will have to learn the examples as well. Now the question arises, from where this 16 essential nutrients come from? Carbon, it is supplied by air. Okay. Next is oxygen and hydrogen. They are supplied by water. So total how many are there? 3. And next is soil. 6 macronutrients, they are supplied by soil, and 7 micronutrients, they are also supplied through soil. So now how many are there in total? Total gives 16 essential nutrients which are required by the plants. This table, it is given in your NCERT book also. You can draw this. Now, if there is deficiency of any of these nutrients, what will happen? The deficiency of these nutrients, it affects the physiological processes in plants. What are those physiological processes? For example, reproduction, growth and susceptibility to disease which occur in plants, they are affected by the deficiency of any of these nutrients. Okay, so that's why these 16 essential nutrients, they are required by the plants. Now the question arises, how the nutrients are supplied by the soil to the plants. To increase the yield of the crop, the soil, it can be enriched by supplying these nutrients in the form of manures and fertilizers. Okay, in which form we are supplying those nutrients to the plants? They are supplied either in the form of manures or fertilizers. Now, what is manure? Manure is prepared by decomposing organic matter. And what is that organic matter? For example, plant waste such as straw and animal waste such as cow dung. These organic matter, they are decomposed and they result in the formation of manure. Means manure contains large quantities of organic matter. Now, what are the advantages of manure? It enriches the soil with organic matter which helps in improving the soil structure and helps in drainage and avoid waterlogging in clay soil. Right now I told you that manure, it contains large amount of organic matter. Okay, So the soil is enriched with the organic matter, and as a result the structure of the soil is improved, plus the water holding capacity of the soil, it is also increased. In clay soil, the large quantities of organic matter, it helps in drainage and avoiding waterlogging conditions. This was the first advantage. Second advantage of manure is it enriches the soil with nutrients that increases the fertility of the soil. It is very clear that the nutrients, they are supplied to the soil in the form of manure, which helps in increasing the soil fertility. And the third advantage of manure is the water holding capacity of the soil, it is increased. Okay. So these are the advantages of manure. Now there are two types of manure. Based on the kind of biological material used, the manures are classified into two categories. They are compost and green manure. So what is compost? Compost is prepared by decomposing plant and animal waste in pits. Okay, plant waste such as straw and animal waste such as cow dung, they are decomposed in pits and compost is being prepared. And when this compost, it is prepared with the help of earthworms, it is called as vermicompost. Okay, when the earthworm help the compost is being prepared, that compost is called as vermicompost. Now why earthworm? Because by using earthworms, the decomposition process becomes faster. Okay, so that's why earthworms are being used, and that process is vermicomposting. This compost, it is rich in organic matter and also in nutrients. Now the second type of manure is green manure. What is green manure? Prior to sowing, plants like sunham or guar, you are familiar with this word guar? Okay, so they are grown and mulched by plowing into the soil. These green plants, they later turn into green manure. This green manure, it helps in enriching the soil with elements like nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay, whenever plants like sunham or guar, they are grown and they are being mulched by the plowing method, they develop into green plants, and these green plants, they turn into green manure. This green manure, it helps in enriching the soil with nitrogen and phosphorus elements. So this is green manure, the second type of manure. Now let us move ahead to fertilizers. What are fertilizers? Fertilizers, these are salts or organic compounds that provide macronutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Nitrogen, it is represented by N, phosphorus is represented by P, and potassium is represented by K. So that's why I have written NPK. Okay, so fertilizers, they provide NPK to the soil. Okay, and fertilizers are used in order to ensure good vegetative growth, giving rise to healthy plants. You can see from the diagram, this is fertilizer. Actually, the fertilizers, they are a factor in higher yields of high cost farming. Okay, they are used where the farming cost is very high. So what are the judicious use of fertilizers? Means how the fertilizers they should be used. First point is that fertilizers they should be applied carefully in terms of proper dose, time and observing pre and post application precautions for their complete utilization. Means what I want to say, for example, you take excessive irrigation. Whenever there is excessive irrigation, due to that, fertilizers they get washed away. Okay, and they are not fully absorbed by the plants. Right? So this excess fertilizer, it is leading to water pollution. So that's why fertilizers, they should be used in terms of proper dose, time and observing pre and post application precautions. Now, second point is continuous use of fertilizers in an area can destroy the soil fertility and also causes water pollution. Means, suppose the fertilizers they are being used continuously by the farmers. So what will happen? The organic matter which is present in the soil, it is not replenished. Okay, that organic matter which is already present, it is not replenished, plus the microorganisms which are living in the soil, they are harmed by the continuous use of fertilizers. Okay, so the continuous use of fertilizers, it can destroy the fertility of the soil and it also causes water pollution. So fertilizers, they should be used properly and judiciously. So what we can conclude? We can conclude that a best crop yield, it is obtained by a balance between the use of fertilizers and manures. Now, what is that balance? Think about it. What amount should be fertilizers and manures? The fertilizers, they should be in less amount, means short benefits, and manures, they should be used in large amounts, means long-term benefits. Okay, so the short-term benefits of using fertilizers and long-term benefits of using manures for maintaining the fertility of the soil, they have to be considered. Why? For obtaining yield in the crop production. There is one term that is organic farming. What is this organic farming? It is a farming system with minimum or no use of chemicals. Okay, either the chemicals they are used in minimum amount or not at all. And what are those chemicals? Such as fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides. So first point is no use of chemicals and with a maximum input of organic manure like recycled farm waste products like cow dung, that is animal waste, straw, that is plant waste. So second point is maximum use of organic manure. Third is use of bioagents. What are the examples? Such as biofertilizers, biopesticides. And fourth point is with healthy cropping system. Okay, there are various cropping patterns which I will discuss later on tomorrow. That is mixed cropping, intercropping and crop rotation. So these four things, that is no use of chemical, maximum use of organic manure, use of bioagents and healthy cropping system. So this total is called organic farming. Okay, that farming where these four things they are being practiced, that is organic farming or the farming system. So what is your homework? You will have to do the following questions. Question number 1 is, what are macronutrients and why they are called macronutrients? Second question is, how do plants get nutrients? Third question is, compare the use of manure and fertilizers in maintaining the fertility of the soil. And the last question, question number 4 is, why are manures and fertilizers used in the fields? Now students, I would be discussing the homework solutions of lecture number 1. So you can match your answers and you can correct them there itself. Question number 1 was, what do we get from cereals, pulses, fruits and vegetables? Answer, cereals are the source of carbohydrate. Also, it is the main reason of energy. Pulses provide proteins for growth and development. Fruits and vegetables, they are a rich source of vitamins and minerals. A small amount of carbohydrates, proteins and fats, they are also present in them for overall development. So this was the answer of your first question. Question number 2 was, how do biotic and abiotic factors affect the crop production? Answer, the two major factors that affect the production of the crops are biotic factors like insects, rodents, pests, nematodes. They feed on standing crop and they reduce the crop production. And abiotic factors like drought, salinity, waterlogging, heat, cold and frost, they destroy the crops raised. It affects the germination, growth and flowering of the plants. Question number 3 was, what are the desirable agronomic characteristics for crop improvement? Answer, the desirable agronomic characteristics required for the crop improvement are tallness and profuse branching for fodder crops. Dwarfness is desired in cereals so that less nutrients are consumed by these crops. So this was your third question. Last question, question number 4 was, explain any one method of crop production which ensures high yield. Answer, one method of crop production which ensures high yield is plant breeding. What is plant breeding? It is a science involved in improving the varieties of the crop by breeding the plants. Now what happens in this? Plants from various places or areas, they are picked up with desired traits means characters. With desired traits or characters, and then hybridization or cross breeding of these varieties is done. Why? To get a crop or plant of desired characteristic. Okay. In this question, first of all explain plant breeding. Then you will tell that we will go for hybridization or cross breeding to obtain the crop with desired characters. Okay, so this was the answer of fourth question. Thank you, class.